Jesus, thank you for tonight. Thank you for every single person in this room. Lord, we welcome you. I recognize the pain and the tenderness that can be in this conversation, the hard things that we've all been through. Lord, I want to recognize that and put that on the table and ask that you, Lord, would heal tonight. Lord, I ask that you would bring clarity where there's confusion. I pray that you'd bring hope where we lack it and where we think that we're just bound to repeat the past that we have done or even generations past. Lord, I pray that you'd give hope and healing, that you'd cast vision tonight for what a beautiful dating, engagement, and eventually marriage can look like. Lord, I pray that you would use me despite me, that you would go around me where necessary, and you would paint a picture tonight of the future that you have for so many in this room. God, would you teach us? We love you. Amen. Okay. So I'm going to talk through two main things tonight, okay? Number one is the types of love, okay? Types of love. There's three main loves talked about in the New Testament, and there's a fourth that's like not as talked about as often, but the types of love, and then the second one is the rooms, okay? Not necessarily biblical, just kind of how we're going to talk about it. Okay, it's not anti-biblical. It's just not in the Bible. So the types of love in the rooms are what we're going to talk through tonight. Okay, and then we are going to discuss. Okay, the types of love. These loves stack. Okay, and so I'm going to talk through all four of them, and I want you to think about these loves that, especially in a dating and eventually marriage relationship, these stack, and that'll make sense here in a second. So. My wife and I, when we were dating and then engaged and then married, we talked about how we stacked titles, okay? And so first we were friends, and then we were intentional friends, right? So we stepped into the season of like, do we want to date? Let's be intentional about this thing. Let's see if we're interested in that. And then we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and then we were fiancés, right? And then eventually husband and wife, and now we're baby daddy and baby mama. And so we stacked titles, okay? And these loves that I'm going to talk about, they stack as well. And so there's kind of a foundational love that's community, and then you build from there, okay? So the first kind of love that we're going to talk about is storge. Okay, it's the word storge. So it's these Greek words that are talked about throughout the New Testament. And so this is storge. It's S-T-O-R-G-E. Looks like storage without the A. Okay, storge. And this is like family love, right? This is like Acts 2, family in Christ, brothers and sisters in Christ type of love, okay? And so this kind of love says, you are family. So this is the kind of love that guys get friend zoned in, right? And so it's like, you're like my brother, you know, I just love you so much, like my brother. Storge is family love. It's the natural love that family members feel for one another. It accepts people for who they are and loves them for where they're at, okay? It is based on a family connection. Don't worry about slides. I got the title slide, but we're not going to have any slides tonight. Sound good? So I didn't want you feeling like you're anticipating like looking at the screen. Can I get a few people to go to Romans 12:10? We're going to read this out of a few translations. Let's do ESV, somebody, NIV. I want to read the Passion Translation. What you got, Ethan? Passion. And who wants to go with the NIV first? I'm going to pass the mic around so everyone can hear it, and so it's on the recording. Tim is going with NIV, Romans 12:10. Yep.
Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves.
Be devoted to one another. Who had ESV? Who's got the ESV?
You said 12:10? Okay. Love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor.
Love one another with brotherly affection. Think about that. Family affection, brotherly affection.
What? Wait, say it passionately. Be devoted to tenderly loving your fellow believers as members of one family. Try to outdo yourselves in respect and honor of one another.
That's good. Don't you like the Passion translation right there? That's really good. And so this word right here in Romans 12:10, it's actually this combined word where they combine storge and the next word we're going to talk about, phileo. Okay? And it's this idea of like family love, brotherly love, being tenderly devoted to one another. That's the kind of love that is just baseline in all Christians. When we start in community, we start in the church, and that is how we treat each other, right? The next word is phileo. Okay, this is community. Okay, and this one, it has the connotation. This was really interesting when I was looking into this. It has the connotation that it says, I love you for a reason. It's like, I like you because blank. It's based on affection. It's feeling over a reason. It's the most common type of love. And it makes me think about like, when you become friends with someone, you start to like them because you like have things in common, or you kind of like pique each other's interests or something like that, right? There's something that draws you together. And that might just simply be, being in the same church. That might be like just being like-minded in your faith. It could be that. It could be lots of different things that draw us together, and we've got a common thing that draws us together. And phileo is the most common type of love. 1 Thessalonians 4:9, it says, now about your love for one another, we do not need to write you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to phileo each other, to love each other. Okay, so it's this very, storge and phileo are very similar in this idea that it's just this baseline, man, this is how we treat each other. We honor one another, we love one another, we have tender affection, brotherly and sisterly love for one another. Okay, storge, phileo, kind of like Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, or philanthropy, which is the love of mankind. Right? That's giving. When people are philanthropists, it's because they love mankind. Next one, third one, eros. Okay? Eros, E-R-O-S. This is passion. This is sexual love. This is, so where storge says you are family and phileo says I like you, eros says I want you. This is sexual passion. Common uses of the word today is erotic, right? This word is not used in the Bible, which I thought that was really interesting. I pictured it being in there, but the concept is seen throughout, but it is not in the Bible, but it's really commonly used in Greek literature. So it describes a sexual love that is either good or bad based on the context. Eros is a physical attraction that's highly emotional and sensual. It can only be fully enjoyed with God's blessing within the covenant of marriage. Okay? Eros. Okay, that's number 3. I want you. Passion. The last one, agape. Okay? Some of you might have heard of this kind of love. Agape love. This is divine love. This is covenant commitment. This is an interesting word that is not used a lot outside of the Bible. And so what the Bible writers really did was they kind of like used a word that was like loosely related to love and put their own meaning into it. It was like, that one's not used much, so we're going to grab a hold of that one and really make it mean a lot, okay? Agape, this is divine covenant commitment, okay? That's what I want you to hear right there. This is covenant commitment kind of love. This is the kind of love that says, I commit to you. I'm here with you for the long haul. covenant love, agape. This is godly Christian love. It is committed, sacrificial. It says, I love you because I choose to love you. It loves regardless of personal cost or reciprocation, okay? It loves whether the person loves back. It is committed. This is the love that God has for us, right? And the love that he calls us to have for him, and that he teaches us that we should have for one another. It's the strongest of all loves, okay? John 3:16, for God so agaped the world. He so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life, right? It's sacrificial. It's committed. It's all in, okay? Can someone go to John 13, verses 34 and 35? I don't care what translation. Who wants to read it? You got it? Yep, 13, 34, and 35.
A new command I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another.
That's agape there. If you agape one another, if you are sacrificially committed to one another, you love one another in a godly way, a Holy Spirit-filled way. Okay, so those are the four kind of loves. All right, and I want you to think about how they kind of stack and they kind of progress. And so the next thing that we're going to talk about is the rooms. Okay, and you're going to see these loves kind of throughout these rooms. All right, and there's some of these loves aren't necessarily appropriate in certain rooms, right? Okay, so eros is saved for the marriage room, right? That's inappropriate in the first room, okay? So the first room we'll talk about is community, okay? This is the big room, all right? I'm going to just tell you them real fast so you kind of see where we're going. Okay, so the first room that we're going to talk about is community. This is just the big room. This is church. This is like just out in the open, okay? The second room is intentional friends, okay? I know this is corny, and I'm okay with it, all right? This is what when I was in a discipleship group with my college pastor, this is the kind of language we used, and we said, even then, yeah, this is corny, but it's helpful. Okay, and so it's okay if it's corny. It's okay if you want to giggle at it. But community, intentional friends, dating, engagement, marriage. Not super complicated, and it really is only just 2 rooms. Okay, it's like the big room and then a smaller room where you're like one-on-one with this person. Okay, so community, the big room. Okay. Where you find someone to date matters, right? Finding someone at a bar or a party is different than finding someone at church. Finding someone at work is different than like lots of different. The setting matters. And I'll say that the context where you find someone to date will set the early tone of your relationship, right? And so if the relationship is one that needs to be sneaky and isolated from the beginning because of the context that it comes from, it'll often breed isolation and sneakiness, and the kinds of things that need to be sneaky usually happen in those kind of relationships, right? The context matters, okay? And so if the relationship comes up out of good, godly community, it has a better chance of being healthy from the get-go. Now, I'm not saying that every relationship, if you meet someone at a bar, or if you meet someone at work, or if you meet someone, I'm just saying the context is important to think about when it comes to who you're looking for. When you have your antenna up and you're kind of like, all right, who am I looking for? Think about context. That really matters, okay? If the relationship comes up out of that space, it's got a good chance. Okay, this is the space, this community space. This is where you're doing life. You're living in community. You're doing what God has called you to do. If you were here for week 1, you remember how we talked about the need for you to be going somewhere, right? You are your own person. You are called and loved by Jesus, and you are going somewhere with your life, okay? And the best relationships are when you're going somewhere, you're running, and you notice someone else is running around the same pace as you, right? Not someone who's crawling after God, but if you're running after, so that's one thing. If you're running after God, you don't want someone who's crawling after God or sitting, right? You want someone who is running after God with you. And so when you're going somewhere, you might notice, hey, someone else is running after God parallel with me. Maybe we should tag team on this thing, right? And that's a good thing. But if someone is going perpendicular, they're going the opposite direction, you don't want to be going with them, right? They're going to tear, you're going to create friction, and you're going to tear on each other's life. But you want to be going the same direction. So when you're in community and you're heading somewhere with your life, you invite someone to be at your shoulder with you. You invite someone to go with you. You don't just sit and exist in a relationship. You're going somewhere together, okay? And community is that space where you're going somewhere. God has called you as an individual, and you're going to live out your life as God calls you, whether or not you have a partner, right? Because you are your own person. And so that's really important, that at the beginning of a relationship that you can exist on your own 2 feet. You can be a grown adult. You can live out the call that God has given you with or without a partner, okay? And a partner is only going to make it stronger and sweeten it, but it's not going to be something that's make or break for you. You should be able to exist on your own, okay? That you have community strong enough where you're not lonely. You're not just sitting there like shriveling on the vine, okay? That's the kind of community we want to live in, that we're not desperately seeking out dating relationships because I have to be known. I have to have community. I have to have somebody because otherwise I'm so lonely. It's like, yeah, you're gonna lean on that relationship too much. That's not gonna be a healthy relationship, okay? And so it's good for you to be in a space where you're fine, okay? This is what the college age is all about, okay? We are building a community of college age people who love Jesus, who are chasing after Jesus, who are growing in maturity in Christ. We're doing it together. And this is a good space to find someone. That's not why we do our college age ministry, but I'm okay with it, right? It's not the primary goal, but it's going to happen constantly. And so I'm okay with be a little matchmaker, but I'm okay with it. This is where we live out week 1. Okay, so if you go back and listen to week 1, we talk about your identity in Christ needs to be so firm and founded and rooted. And we just simply exist as the kind of people that God created us to be. And what if, in this space, you were to live like a husband or live like a wife, right? Before you're married, you live financially like, you know what? I'm going to live like the kind of person that like a husband would think financially. I'm gonna be that way. I'm gonna live spiritually like I'm carrying the weight of I'm a husband. With purity, you're gonna live in a way that like a husband, right? Imagine if we had a community of college age people who thought of themselves as like, I'm an adult. Like I could go to war, I could vote, I could smoke, I could do all these things. Like I'm an adult. And I'm going to carry myself like that, and I'm going to be growing, right? So the goal is to be the kind of person that attracts the kind of person you want to be with, right? That's what we're doing here. And if you want to get married, man, your first goal is be the kind of person that the person that you want to be with is attracted to. This is the storge and phileo kind of love, right? Family, brothers and sisters, let's love each other well in the community space. So the room, okay? So we're going to step into this room, and this room is exclusive, right? There's community out there, and this is like, I don't know, that's like the living room, and this is like the sitting room or the den. Which one? What are we going to call it? The den. This is the den. okay? And so you step into the den, and so say in this community space, there's someone that you really like, and it seems to be mutual. You either ask the person on a date, or you have some sort of DTR type of conversation of, hey, I like you, and I would like to be intentional friends. I'd like to start moving toward, could I take you on a date? Okay? The goal of this room in this stage, this intentional friends stage, is to see if you really like the person or not. It's like, hey, I really like who I'm seeing in community. And I want to get more time with you, just us, to kind of see if there's chemistry there and to see if I like you in that space. Like if we like that. We like being one-on-one. We like being a little bit more exclusive. Now, there's a door on this room of commitment, okay? And in the intentional friends stage, this door is wide open, okay? You don't even touch the door. And you can step in and step out of that door without any problem. It is not, if you step into this and it's like you go on one date and you're like, that's okay, right? There's no strings attached. This is not like, you're bad, you went on a date with a guy and, man, that's too bad. You're marked, right? That's not what this is, okay? It's okay to have some conversations with people and to say, yeah, we wanted to explore that. We like that, okay? I could see this stage usually being like 1 to 3 months, okay? I like what someone said the other day about just waiting a few weeks, right? You kind of get to this boiling point where it's like, we should have a conversation. There's something here. I think there's something good in going, hey, we're not going to label this boyfriend and girlfriend right away. Let's wait a few weeks and let's do some dates. Let's spend some time together. This is a chance to say, hey, we're not going to be texting and snapping all day, every day. Let's be intentional. Let's do this more in person than we do digitally. Let's go quality over quantity, and let's spend really good time in intentional ways, okay? We're going to get together, we're going to go on dates, and we're going to have meaningful conversation where I'm trying to get to know you. And this is hanging out with the view towards, I think, let's see if we want to date, okay? And this is where you get some wise opinions, okay? You say, hey, what do you think of so-and-so and me? Could that be a thing, right? And if you're living in community, one, it's probably already obvious to everyone, right? There's something going on with those two. And two, that community is probably going to have a useful opinion of you. I see Christians a lot of times coming out of left field with a boyfriend or girlfriend where I'm like, where did you get this person? Like, it really is like, I see you like 3 or 4 times a week and you just found this person somewhere? Like, really, like this is an odd thing for you to think this is going to go well. And what either happens is the missionary dating is successful and that person is brought into the community, or more often than not, this person slowly fades away and becomes isolated, and their vibrant life that they had when they were single starts to fade away, okay? So context matters. And so if you're living, I think what could be a little bit better is invite that person in, right? Or it should be the kind of person who's already in, okay? That you're not going after dating someone who's fully disconnected, because that's not the kind of person who's running at the same pace as you already. Does that make sense? Okay. For Megan and I, we did something like 4 to 6 weeks of being intentional friends. We went on walks, we studied together, we did social events and church stuff together. It was really fun and it was good. And after getting to know each other better, we both wanted to go to the next step. And I'm not prescribing this, okay? So I'm going to explain what I did, but in this part right here, I want you to know, I'm not saying you have to do this. This is what I did, but you don't have to do this, okay? But I was committed to setting the tone of what I'm about and how I operate early on. And so I called Megan's dad. This was like after our 4 to 6 weeks of intentional friends, and I wanted to take him out for lunch. So we went to Hackett's, of course, And I asked him if I could have his permission to date his daughter. That was important to me that I established that kind of respect and I begin that relationship well. Okay, so I would encourage that because I think it brought her parents into the relationship in a good way, and not too much, but in a good way. You don't have to do that, but I thought it was really good and it worked out really well for me. Okay, so that was intentional friends, and then this next stage is dating. Okay, this is where you kind of like stuff starts to get real. Okay, you're in the same room, but you go, you shut the door. Okay, the door is not locked at all. Okay, the door can be opened at any time, and there's probably going to be hurt feelings, but it's not like this, like, oh, you're bad. Okay, it's okay to stop dating someone. All right. I thought this quote from Ben Stewart he's got some really good stuff. If you've seen his book, Single, Dating, Engaged, Married, I've listened to some of his stuff over the last few weeks and it's very helpful. He said, dating is not a status to sit in, but a process to move through. It's not a status to sit in, but a process to move through. Okay, this is the season where you really get to examine the character of the person that you're dating. Okay? Early on can just be so much fun, so much giddiness and butterflies in your stomach early on in the intentional friends and then dating like the first year. There's just so much like, right? And it's fun, and it should be, okay? Have a lot of fun. But the further you go, the more you really want to be studying this person. You want to be thinking long term, is this the kind of person that I want to be with when they're 40? Are they heading the direction of the kind of man or the kind of woman that I would envision myself enjoying being with? Okay, so you're thinking character, all right? And as time goes on, you date longer and longer. That's when you should get into real situations, okay? A lot of times early on, you're just doing fun stuff. You don't see them in difficult situations, right? It seems like those difficult things, the conflict with parents or some big thing, it seems like people don't bring in their early dating relationship into those yet because it gets messy and we want to guard that. We don't want people to see that, and we need to see more of that to see like, do I want to be with a person who navigates things like this? Okay, and so you wanted to get into real situations with community, with your families, okay, with people who can be objective for you. Okay, start seeing this person serve at church. Do they serve anyone? That's a good question. Do they serve anyone? Or are they just about themselves? Okay, if they're not serving anyone, I don't know that they'll serve you, right? Both guys and girls. Agape love is sacrificial, and marriage is sacrificial. And it is service. It is like you serve each other in everything. Like there is so often where it's like, oh, this is hard. And you have to serve each other constantly. And so that's important. Is this person a servant? See how they interact with their parents, their siblings, their friends. Do you like the way that they treat those people? Because they're going to treat you that way. You're going to become family. If you get married, you're going to really quickly become family, and they're going to treat you the way that they treat those people. Like there's no getting around that. That is for real. I've never seen it any other way. Do you like the way that they treat those people? Ask questions about their testimony, okay? In this season of dating, like you want to ask questions about their testimony. How'd they meet Jesus? Another question about that. Do they have a testimony? If they feel weird about that question, probably not for you, right? If someone feels kind of weird about that, of like, what's my testimony? That's probably not who you want to be with, right? I don't know that they're legit following Jesus if they don't have like, yeah, this is when my faith became my own, okay? And I don't know that they're maturing if they don't understand that question either, okay? Do you like how they handle their money? This goes for guys and girls. Guys, it's okay to be uncomfortable with a girl who wants to spend wants you to spend all of your money on her. It's not hers yet. Okay? That's okay to be uncomfortable with that. In this room, okay, the door is closed, and this is where you start being exclusive. Okay? Here's another component. You start being exclusive, and this is where there's no more talking to other people in that like dating type of sense. Okay, it's okay here to start to press on each other about certain interactions with the opposite sex, not in a yucky, overjealous way. Okay, it's like a fine line. Okay, and sometimes people can be the yucky, overjealous, where the guy or girl can't talk to anyone, or they're like, oh my gosh, like you're cheating on me, right? But then there's the other side where someone's pretty loosey-goosey with it, and it's like, wait, I thought you were dating so-and-so. Like, that's kind of weird, okay? It's okay to start to lean in on like, that made me feel kind of weird, okay? That's an okay thing to do. You've got to relearn what it looks like to interact with the opposite sex. And I think it's a really good thing to still be in community. This is a tension, okay? This is a tension to hold, not a problem to solve. It's not a binary. It's not like, okay, once you start dating, no girls. Nathan, you cannot talk to a girl once you have a girlfriend, right? It's not that, but things change, right? And so now I don't have female friends outside of our friends, right? Megan and I have female friends that we share, but I don't have any one-on-one friendships with any women besides my wife. I have friends that I really enjoy, that they are great friends of mine through our relationship. Does that make sense? And that, I think that starts in the dating season, okay? And there's just some wisdom that it takes to navigate that with maturity and to not be jealous, to not be insecure, to trust, and also not be loosey-goosey and like kind of yucky and that kind of person, right? So, I was in a small group. This was when we were engaged. We were in this small group with like 4 to 5 young married or engaged couples. And that was the best space for me to learn how to have sisters in Christ. All but one was older than me, and it was just this really good space where I was able to learn, like, how do we do this life like this now, okay? All that said, it's still really good for you to have both girl and guy friends, okay? It's good to have community. It just starts to shift, okay? All those things, all those questions that I talked about, you just need to start to really know this person. You need to be studying this person. Think about, like, we can be so flippant with ourselves, with our own soul, our own heart. The Proverbs say to guard your heart. Jesus says, guard your heart, for from it flows the wellspring of life. Your heart is so important, and you are so valuable, okay? You need to treat yourself like you're valuable and not jump into things without paying attention, without studying, without really learning, is this person someone worthy of like attaching my heart to? Are they gonna honor my heart? Okay? So we gotta like think of ourselves as valuable enough to put in the work to go, this person, I've really learned them. I've studied them. Like it's like teams like watching film. Like, do you watch film on your relationship? You know what I'm saying? Like, you are valuable and you're worth putting in the work to have a good relationship in the future, okay? So, you've had phileo and storge love for this person for a long time, right? You've been in community and you started to move into this intentional friends room, and then you shut the door, right? And you've been dating, and over time, this agape love, it's beginning in the dating season, right? It's not right away, but it builds over time where you start to sacrifice for one another, right? And you start to, you don't immediately, I don't think it's good to immediately reorient your whole lives around each other. But over time, that takes place, right? That's the beginning. You start to orient your lives and match up your lives as you're like, yeah, man, I think we're going to run together for a long time. You start to head that direction. And the eros love starts here too. On eros love, just little thing. Attraction is important. And it's hard to say exactly how important, okay? We've had friends who, this is hard to talk through, but we've had friends who got divorced, and we remember one of the first conversations we had back in college was one of them talking about like, I don't know if I'm really all that attracted to this person. Well, they kind of fought through those feelings of like, yeah, but this is good, and everyone's saying we should, and kind of fought through that. Well, they cheated on each other, and their marriage kind of like just blew up. And that sucks. Okay? The attraction is not everything, but it's something. Okay? So there's something there. And I don't know like a hard and fast rule to tell you of like, yeah. I think it's a tension between two things. This is just me shooting from the hip. I didn't plan on talking about this, but I think it's a tension between two things. On one side, you have attraction does matter, and you should consider it, okay? And you should be attracted to the person before you're ever committed to them. There should be things about them that you go, okay, all right. Both looks and personality and everything about them should be like, interesting, okay? On this side, there's that before you ever commit to them, they pique your interest. On the other side, so it's a tension, right? It's a tension to hold. On the other side is this truth that your standard of beauty, right? Do you know what a standard of beauty is? Like, I will not date a person, if they're below this standard of beauty. Whatever that is, it's pretty intangible, but your standard of beauty becomes, once you commit in marriage to a person, that person is your standard of beauty. So she got big hips, you like big hips, right? He got big old teeth, you like them chompers, right? Like you like, your standard of beauty has to be pressed into, I like that. That's what I like, right? Because you committed to that. You're all in, you're covenant. There's no changing it. That's what you like, okay? And it gets really funky. And it goes downhill when you say, well, I'm committed to this person, but I like this other things. It's like that sucks. That's really bad, okay? And so it's this tension between, yeah, it does matter, but also, man, there's things that matter a lot more. And your standard of beauty is gonna shift into that thing. And what was here is gonna change a whole lot. Babies change people's bodies. And dads, there's something that happens, man. Your metabolism slows down and things change and hair grows in places you never had it before, right? My hair is moving from up here to on my back. Like, it's happening. And it happens every day. And it changes, okay? And so your standard of beauty needs to become whoever it is that you marry, okay? Does that make sense? I just wanted to say that. Okay. Yeah. So, this agape love, it starts in the dating season and it starts to progress over time where you start to make more sacrifices. Early on in a dating relationship, I think it's kind of inappropriate to be making big sacrifices. You need to be wise about that, okay? And as you get closer to engagement, it starts to make more sense. There it is. That's why I started talking about the eros love. That's when that's starting, and we've got to really guard that, okay? Leaving and cleaving starts here, okay? As you go further into dating towards engagement, leaving and cleaving starts here. Genesis 2:24, it says, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife. He leaves and he cleaves. That's a weird word, right? Cleave. We don't really use that word, but leaving, cleaving rhymes, okay? He leaves his mother and father and he's united to his wife and they become one flesh. I think one way to know if you are ready to get engaged, okay, if you are in a dating relationship and you feel like it's moving towards marriage and engagement and those kind of things, one way to know if you're ready to start to leave and cleave, is are you ready to be completely on your own? Pay your own bills, do your own thing, be completely separated from your parents. Not saying that you don't stay on their health insurance till you're 26 because hashtag America. Or maybe you're like me and you're on Netflix, your mom's Netflix till you're 32. I don't know. They kicked me off last year. It sucks. But in any ways, it was Netflix that kicked me off, not my mom. She would never do that. But in any ways that you need to, you're ready to do it, okay? And you are able to do it. That you know, okay, I'm ready to start heading that way. If I can stand on my own 2 feet, I provide for myself, and I can provide for another person, right? Both guys and girls. Are you the kind of person who could go and live on your own and make it, right? That's like baseline. Are you there? And there's emotional maturity things and your relationship, all kinds of things. But I'd say that's like one of the first markers. On the transition from being intentional friends to dating, I don't think I would prescribe asking a girl's father for permission. Like, I'm not going to tell all you guys you need to do that. But here, between dating and engagement, I think I would say, yeah, you really need to do that, okay? Me and John, we went to Hackett's again, which was fun, kind of nostalgic. We reflected on the last year and a half of me dating his daughter, and I asked his permission. And I about threw up, right? It was very nerve-wracking, man, but it was really worth it. I'm really glad that I did that, and I would strongly suggest that, okay? And I know that there's different dynamics for every family and every young woman, okay? And so I want to say that with tenderness. I want you to hear my heart in this, that like if you've got a different dynamic going on, it's okay. All right? There's men around you who love you. There's men in the church who love you and can step into that role in some ways for you, okay? And so some dads aren't in the picture. Some dads are just losers, and they're really difficult people, okay? So this could mean that that a young man asks her pastor or her grandpa or older brother or her mom or all of them could be a good idea, depending on the situation, okay? Mentors can help you navigate this. That is where community and older mentors are really helpful to go, there's some different dynamics here. I want to honor her family. That's the goal. I want to honor her family, and I want to begin this marriage with a good tone, okay? That's the goal right there of whatever that is, of the asking permission thing. I want to honor them. How should I do that? I don't know who to ask or how to go about this, okay? So that's dating. Engagement, okay? So we walked in this room, we shut the door. Engagement is where you lock the door. You've still got the keys in your hands, but the door is locked. It's this sign that, hey, we're in this thing, okay? We are in this thing. And I think it's healthy to be shooting for 1 to 2 years of dating before you get engaged. Depends on the person, depends on the people. But I don't think the engagement season should be a long one at all. I don't understand when people are engaged for like 3 years. They're like, yeah, we're planning our wedding fall of 2030. It's going to be great. It's like, what are you talking about? That's really crazy to me. I don't understand that, okay? I think it really should be long enough. I think 2 primary things. Long enough to do premarital counseling well, to really do that justice, and then long enough to plan a good enough wedding. Okay? That's up to you guys on what is good enough. I think engagement was my least favorite 6 months of our relationship, hands down. Super lame. The sexual tension, the anticipation, the busyness of it, the constant decisions. Nope, no thanks. Do not make it a long season, okay? If you want to honor Jesus with your integrity and your sexual purity and those types of things, man, don't make it a super long season, okay? And so you start in the big community room, you step into the next room, you're intentional friends, keep the door wide open, you move to becoming exclusive, you shut the door, but don't lock it, and when you get engaged, that's when you lock the door and you have the keys. And I'll say about engagement, this is a weird thing. I don't think anyone ever says this, and I want to say it out loud. I think God might agree. I want to say it out loud. It's not a failure if you get closer to marriage and decide to call it off. I know that sounds crazy, okay? But that's what we say in premarital counseling. If we get into these conversations and either of you decides to pull the plug, that's a win. Okay? It's better and less damaging to do it in engagement than it is after you're married. Okay? Being a pastor, see a lot of really terrible marriages. Okay, there's a lot of people who just have train wreck marriages. And you ask them like, oh, so what did you guys do for premarital? What's that? Right? So many people don't even know what that is. Okay? It is so much less damaging to pull the plug before and to do the hard work before, rather than on the other side where you're trying to fix a broken thing trying to fix a broken plane while it's in the air. Do it down on the runway, okay? Before you even take off. Okay? The leaving and cleaving process really starts to ramp up here in this engagement season. You start to get your life established together and combining things together in your life, right? Financially, a lot of people think that you need to save up a whole bunch of money to get married, right? I feel like that's like the most common thing. Well, financially, we're not ready for that. I don't know. There's probably things that I don't understand. I don't get that at all. I think this is an unnecessary hurdle we place in front of ourselves. Megan and I's expenses went way down after we got married. We moved out of the dorms and into the Ambassador Apartments, okay, over there on A and Wall. It's $435 a month, utilities included. Woo! And I think it's the same even now. They haven't even raised rent. Does anyone live there? Do you live there? Do you know what the rent is there? They haven't raised the rent in 40 years. It's crazy. So we moved out of there. We stopped paying our double room and board. We stopped paying for calf food. We got more Pell Grant after we got married. More. They gave us more money to go to college. People are saying they want to finish college, and I'm like, it's cheaper to get married. We combined our bank accounts, right? It was so much better for us financially after we got married. We both were saving money. It was how does this happen? We're working part-time saving money. It was really, and giving. It was crazy. Yeah. So, a few goals that I think could be good for the engagement season. Number one is establish one couple to do premarital counseling with. And I think you can have this in your sights before you get engaged. Because it's a big commitment, okay? And having taken people through that, it takes a lot from the couple that's doing it as well. It's a heavy commitment. So establish one couple to do premarital counseling with, and then I would say find 2 to 3 other older couples to get together with throughout your engagement. Get dinner with them, something like that, and ask them a set of questions. Ask them the same questions that you ask the other ones, okay? I think those could be 2 really good goals. And here's my encouragement when you meet with these people, okay? It is easy to put on a mask to get their approval. But it really is up to you on how firm of a foundation do you want to set for yourself. You've got to be legitimately vulnerable with these people. People can't help you grow unless you're real with them. And when you hide stuff, it does nothing but hurt you in the long run. Okay? We've had people that we did premarital counseling with that were having sex the whole time and then told us the week before their wedding. And it was just why didn't we deal with this 6 months ago? We could have set you up so much better, but you lied to us. That sucks, you know? And so be vulnerable and be real with people so you can have the best thing possible. It does nothing but hurt you, okay? Some other optional things or helpful ideas through the engagement season. I think you could do a couple of these things beforehand, but you could do some assessments like the Myers-Briggs, love languages, Enneagram, motive matters, those kind of things, like just personality assessments to get to know the other person. You could also do like, especially right when you get engaged, do the saving your marriage before it starts assessment, okay? SYMBIS, SYMBIS, saving your marriage before it starts. It is a super in-depth assessment that you get this report that's like 40 pages, and it has all these categories, and it basically is going to highlight, hey, here's an area of concern. Here's an area where you guys, man, you could really thrive here. And it's really neat, very, very helpful. Okay, and so this engagement season is a really good time to like ramp up the like, hey, let's learn about each other. Let's really learn how to love this person well. Okay, you learn what makes them tick. How do they feel loved by you? Okay, what are their instincts when it comes to navigating conflict? Are they a flight, fight, or freeze person? Right? Megan and I don't remember if I said this last week or the week before, but like we never had a fight until we were like 2 months from being married. Like we were together almost 2 years before we ever fought about anything. Okay? And on that, if you guys are fighting all the time, like early in dating, I don't know that I get that. Okay? You should just be having a lot of fun and enjoying each other. And so it feels like a red flag a little bit for me. If people are fighting all the time early on, it's like, why? About what? Like, I don't. So I think that should be a bit of a red flag. Okay. You could do Financial Peace University, things like that. Money, crazy enough, money is like the top contributor to divorce. Like when they talk about like what are the reasons that you guys got married, one of the first things that people ever mention is differing views on how you handle finances. And so Financial Peace University could be a really good thing to do together. Overall, here's my main encouragement, something that you could write down. If you take anything from tonight, let it be this: you should spend more time preparing for your marriage than you do for your wedding. Okay? Spend more time preparing for your marriage than you do for your wedding. I hardly remember my wedding. If we didn't have pictures, it would be such a freaking blur. Megan tells me stuff all the time about her wedding. I'm like, oh, really? That's cool. Like, I had no idea. It's a day. It's a few hours. It's a cool thing. But we've been married a whole lot more days than our one wedding day. Okay? So spend more time preparing for your marriage than you do for your wedding. It's very important, okay, that you receive affirmations and blessings from friends and family and community during this stage. And if you don't, I think you should really take the time to listen to those concerns and take steps to ensure that you're embracing them and working through them, okay, because this is where older community can be helpful. And sometimes if the conflict is big enough, you should involve them all together, right? If there's like a parent who is really adamant that this relationship shouldn't continue, but it's like, you guys are like at an impasse, like, I don't think I trust that parent. Because there's some parents that aren't worth trusting, right? They're not wise enough. That's when I think you could involve multiple other couples who really know you, and if you're really actually vulnerable with them, to weigh in to help you navigate those kinds of things. Because you marry family too. You marry that person's family. You're going to end up at holidays and all sorts of different things for a long, long time. Okay? So make sure that you honor these people and you start off on the right foot and you come in, you know what you're getting yourself into. Okay? My last thing, and this is a bit of a warning. I don't think you're going to do this, but I feel like I have to say it. It can be very easy to think of yourself or the relationship that you're in as the exception to all these things, okay? We're the exception, and all these things, that's for other people, right? We are more mature than that, okay? One of the weirdest things is how consistent we are. When it comes to like dating things that happen, it's like, it's so consistent. Like college age people, when they're dating, so many of the things are so consistent. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like you just see things over and over and over again, okay? And so I'm not saying like, oh, trust me, but trust me a little bit, okay? So you should consider these things and don't think of yourself as the exception, okay? Any questions before we jump off into discussion time? Okay. If you have anything you want to talk about tonight, I'd welcome it. I've got some discussion questions here on the table for you.